Security! We've got a vagrant in Armani! The desk clerk burst into hysterical laughter, pointing at Marcus Williams like he was a circus act. Sir, McDonald's is down the street. This lobby is for paying customers only. Her cackles echoed off marble walls as guests joined the humiliation party. Two guards grabbed Marcus by both arms, physically dragging him toward the exit while phones captured every degrading second. Make sure he doesn't steal anything on the way out, someone shouted, triggering another wave of cruel laughter. But Marcus wasn't struggling. He was checking his watch with ice-cold precision. 20 minutes. That's how long these people had left in their jobs. The man they were manhandling owned 67% of this entire hotel chain. The most spectacular corporate execution in business history was about to begin, and every laugh was digging their graves deeper. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by people who were about to lose everything to you? 15 minutes earlier, Marcus Williams had walked through those glass doors like he owned the place, because he did. But nobody knew that yet. The Grandview Hotel lobby hummed with Tuesday afternoon power lunches and champagne gossip when Marcus crossed the marble floor, his Italian leather briefcase swinging with quiet confidence toward the mahogany reception desk. Sarah Martinez looked up and her face twisted like she'd tasted spoiled milk. "Excuse me, are you lost? The loading dock is around back," her voice carrying across the lobby like a dinner bell for vultures. Marcus held up his phone showing the confirmation screen with silk over steel calm. "I have a reservation. Penthouse suite, Marcus Williams." Sarah's cackle could have shattered crystal as she announced, "Oh, honey, there's definitely been a mistake. This is the Grandview Hotel, not wherever it is you people usually stay." The lobby went electric as conversations died mid-sentence. Espresso cups froze halfway to lips, and 20 phones emerged like weapons being drawn for battle. Manager Tom Bradley strutted out from the back office, his chest puffed like a rooster sensing a fight, eyes locking onto Marcus with a predatory smile. "Oh, I see. Another confusion about our standards," he announced while Marcus remained statue still and chaos erupted around him. An elderly socialite in Chanel sneered, "These scammers are getting bolder every day," her lunch companion nodding. "Probably saw it on TikTok," their voices carrying like they wanted Marcus to hear every poisonous word. Bradley stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space with practiced intimidation. "Sir, I'm going to save us all some embarrassment. This establishment caters to Fortune 500 executives, foreign diplomats, entertainment industry royalty. Perhaps there's a more suitable accommodation down the street?" The phones multiplied as someone started an Instagram live with comments flooding in real time. "OMG drama at the Grandview. This is so cringe. Security, where you at?" But while the feeding frenzy intensified, nobody noticed Marcus adjust his platinum cufflinks, custom pieces engraved with two words that would soon rewrite everyone's reality: Grand Corp Holdings. 10 minutes remained until their world would implode. Sarah announced with theatrical authority, "I think we need to involve security. We can't have people wandering in off the street disrupting our guests," playing to her phone audience like an amateur performer who'd found her stage. Marcus checked his watch with supernatural calm, murmuring just loud enough for witnesses, "I do need to wrap this up. My 4 o'clock board call can't wait." The words board call floated through the growing mob, but nobody connected the dots, too drunk on their own superiority to notice the contradiction of a homeless scammer with board calls. The crowd was feeding on itself now as business executives abandoned their meetings to join the spectacle. Hotel guests pressed closer with phones recording every second of what they assumed was justice being served, the live stream hitting 50 viewers, then 100, with comments becoming more vicious. "Throw him out. Call the cops. This is hilarious." Bradley basked in his moment, playing the hero protecting civilization from chaos. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. We're handling the situation," he announced before turning back to Marcus with theatrical authority. "Sir, I'm asking you one final time to leave voluntarily." Sarah was already crafting her social media post, fingers flying across her phone screen, creating the digital evidence that would soon destroy her career, probably something about keeping standards high and protecting valued guests. The PA system crackled, security to the lobby immediately, and the crowd murmured with satisfaction as justice approached and order would be restored. Marcus Williams stood in the eye of this hurricane, adjusting those platinum cufflinks one more time, the engraving catching the light. Grand Corp Holdings, the parent company that didn't just own stock in this hotel, but owned the entire chain with 67% controlling interest in Luxury Hospitality International. Every laugh was being recorded, every cruel comment live-streamed, every second of public humiliation creating an evidence file that would soon be presented to corporate headquarters. Security guards approached with crackling radios as the crowd pressed closer, phones held high like torches at a witch burning. Sarah grinning behind her desk, already imagining tonight's viral video. Tom Bradley straightening his tie and savoring his moment of absolute power. None of them realized they were about to meet their new boss. The man they were throwing out. The man who signed their paychecks. The man whose next phone call would end every single one of their careers as Marcus checked his watch one final time. Almost 4 o'clock. Almost time for that board call. Almost time to change everything. The security guards arrived like storm clouds gathering before lightning strikes, their black uniforms and serious expressions cutting through the festive atmosphere of public humiliation that had consumed the Grandview lobby. Head of security Jim Reynolds led the charge, a man built like a refrigerator with the personality to match, flanked by 2 younger guards whose eager faces suggested they lived for moments like this. "All right, folks, what's the situation here?" Reynolds announced, his voice booming across the marble expanse as Sarah Martinez practically vibrated with excitement behind her desk. "We have an individual who refuses to leave the premises after being asked multiple times," she declared, pointing at Marcus like he was evidence in a criminal trial. "He's been disruptive and is clearly not a legitimate guest." The crowd of onlookers had swollen to nearly 40 people, a mix of hotel guests, staff members who'd abandoned their posts, and random passers-by drawn by the commotion like moths to a particularly dramatic flame. Reynolds approached Marcus with the swagger of a man who'd ejected countless troublemakers and never once questioned his authority. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, but either way, you're leaving this property." Marcus remained perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the security chief with the kind of calm that should have been terrifying but somehow went completely unnoticed by everyone present. "I understand you believe you're doing your job," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying just enough to reach the nearest phones that were still recording every word. "But I wonder if you've considered the legal implications of forcibly removing a legitimate guest who's committed no crime." Reynolds laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. "Legitimate guest? Buddy, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know a scammer when I see one." The crowd murmured its approval, phones capturing every moment of what they believed was justice in action, completely oblivious to the fact they were documenting the most expensive mistake in corporate hospitality history. Tom Bradley stepped forward to join his security chief, basking in the spotlight like a peacock displaying his feathers. "Jim, this individual has been causing a disturbance for nearly 20 minutes now. Our guests are getting uncomfortable." As if on cue, several hotel patrons nodded dramatically, playing their parts in this theater of discrimination with Oscar-worthy dedication. And businessman in a $1,000 suit called out, "Just get him out of here already. Some of us have important meetings." A woman dripping in diamonds added, "This is exactly why we stay at exclusive hotels, to avoid this kind of situation." Marcus absorbed every insult, every cruel comment, every recorded second of their arrogance with the patience of a man who knew exactly how this story would end. 5 minutes remained until his scheduled board call, 5 minutes until the most devastating corporate restructuring in hospitality history would begin. But nobody in that lobby had any idea they were living in the final moments of their careers. The live stream had exploded to over 300 viewers, comments flowing like a toxic river of approval for the impending ejection. "Finally, some justice. Throw the bum out. This is what happens when you try to scam rich people." Sarah Martinez was practically glowing as she watched her viewer count climb, already imagining the viral fame that would come from her starring role in this drama. She'd positioned herself perfectly in the frame, making sure her name tag was visible, probably planning to leverage this moment into some kind of social media influencer career built on public humiliation and casual racism. Tom Bradley had called over additional staff members, creating an audience for his performance as the heroic manager protecting civilization from chaos. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the crowd, "this is why the Grandview Hotel maintains the highest standards in luxury hospitality. We simply cannot allow disruptions to our distinguished guests' experience." Reynolds moved closer to Marcus, his hand resting on his radio in a gesture designed to intimidate. "Sir, I'm placing you under citizen's arrest for trespassing. You have 5 seconds to comply, or my officers will escort you out in handcuffs." The threat sent a thrill through the watching crowd, phones held higher to capture the money shot of Marcus being led away in restraints. But Marcus simply checked his watch again, that same supernatural calm radiating from him like he possessed some secret knowledge that made all of this theater irrelevant. "I appreciate the warning," he said quietly, his voice carrying just enough to reach the recording devices. "But I should mention that forcibly detaining a guest who's committed no crime opens this establishment to significant legal liability. I'd hate for anyone to make a career-ending mistake." His words should have been a warning, but they were dismissed as the desperate bluffing of a cornered con artist. Reynolds actually chuckled as he gestured to his backup officers. "Boys, looks like we're doing this the hard way." The two younger guards moved to flank Marcus, their hands reaching for his arms as the crowd pressed closer with bloodthirsty anticipation. This was the moment they'd all been waiting for, the violent climax to their entertainment, the physical removal that would validate their assumptions and restore order to their privileged world. Sarah's phone was practically smoking from overuse as she captured every angle, her commentary flowing like a sports announcer calling the winning touchdown. And here we see hotel security doing what needs to be done, protecting our valued guests from individuals who think they can infiltrate exclusive establishments. The guard's hands were inches from Marcus when he spoke again, his voice cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. "Before you proceed, I should probably mention that I have a 4 o'clock conference call with the board of directors of Grand Corp Holdings, the parent company that owns this hotel chain. I'd hate to be late because I was being illegally detained by my own employees." The words hung in the air like smoke from an explosion, but their meaning hadn't quite penetrated the mob mentality that had consumed the lobby. Reynolds paused, his hand still reaching for Marcus, confusion flickering across his features. "What did you just say?" he asked, but his voice lacked the confidence it had carried moments before. Marcus smiled for the first time since this nightmare began, an expression so calm and knowing that it should have terrified everyone present. "I said I own this hotel. All of it. Every marble tile, every crystal chandelier, every employment contract in this building, including yours." The security guards froze mid-reach, their hands suspended in space as their brains struggled to process information that contradicted everything they thought they knew. The crowd's murmur shifted from anticipation to confusion, phones still recording, but their operators suddenly uncertain about what story they were actually capturing. 2 minutes remained until Marcus's scheduled board call, 2 minutes until the corporate phone call that would reshape every life in that lobby, but the revelation had only just begun to sink in. Tom Bradley's face had gone pale, his theatrical confidence cracking like ice in spring sunlight. Sarah Martinez's live stream comments were shifting. "Wait, what did he just say? Did he say he owns the hotel? This is getting weird." Marcus reached into his jacket pocket with deliberate slowness, extracting a business card that would serve as the first piece of evidence in the most thorough corporate house cleaning in business history. "Perhaps," he said with quiet devastation, "we should discuss this in private. All of us. Right now." Marcus Williams handed his business card to Jim Reynolds with the casual confidence of a man dropping a nuclear bomb disguised as small talk. The security chief's eyes moved across the embossed text like he was reading a foreign language, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror in real time. "Marcus Williams, Chief Executive Officer, Grand Corp Holdings," he read aloud, his voice cracking on the final words like a teenager hitting puberty. The business card might as well have been a death certificate because that's exactly what it represented for everyone who'd spent the last 20 minutes humiliating their own boss. Tom Bradley snatched the card from Reynolds' trembling fingers, studying it with the desperate intensity of a man hoping to find evidence of forgery, but the heavyweight paper stock, the raised lettering, and the holographic security features told a story that no amount of denial could rewrite. Sarah Martinez had gone completely silent behind her desk, her live stream still running, but her commentary dried up like a desert spring as 300 viewers watched her career implode in real time. The lobby had transformed from a theater of cruelty into a morgue of stunned silence, 40 phones still recording, but their operators suddenly uncertain whether they were documenting justice or the greatest corporate disaster in hospitality history. Marcus adjusted those platinum cufflinks one final time, the Grand Corp Holdings engraving catching the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows like a beacon of impending doom. "Perhaps we should clarify a few things," he said with the kind of quiet authority that makes grown men confess their sins. Grand Corp Holdings maintains a 67% controlling interest in Luxury Hospitality International, which operates this hotel along with 43 other properties across North America. I've been CEO for 8 years, during which time I've personally reviewed every major policy decision, every executive hiring, and every customer complaint that rises to corporate attention. The words fell like hammer blows on coffin nails as the reality of their situation began to penetrate even the thickest skulls in the crowd. Tom Bradley's face had achieved a shade of gray normally reserved for corpses as he stammered, "Sir, we had no way of knowing you weren't on our VIP guest list. There was no advance notice of your arrival." His excuses tumbled out like confession booth admissions while Marcus remained perfectly still, letting the manager dig his own grave with every desperate word. "Mr. Bradley," Marcus replied with surgical precision, "are you suggesting that Grand Corp policy requires advance notification before the CEO can enter properties he owns? Because I'm quite certain our operational guidelines state that all guests, regardless of race, ethnicity, or perceived social status, should be treated with equal respect and professionalism." The crowd was beginning to understand they'd witnessed something far more significant than a simple ejection, their phones capturing not a victory of privilege over presumption, but evidence of systematic discrimination that would soon be presented to corporate attorneys, civil rights organizations, and probably a federal investigation. Sarah Martinez finally found her voice, though it emerged as a strangled whisper. "Mr. Williams, I sincerely apologize for any misunderstanding. If you'd just shown us your identification from the beginning, this entire situation could have been avoided." Her attempt to shift blame landed like a lead balloon in a room full of people who'd watched her orchestrate 20 minutes of public humiliation while live streaming her own starring role in corporate discrimination theater. Marcus turned to face her directly, his expression carrying the weight of absolute judgment. "Ms. Martinez, are you suggesting that guests should be required to prove their worthiness before receiving basic courtesy? Because if that's your position, I'd be fascinated to hear how you determine which customers deserve respect and which deserve ridicule." The livestream comments were exploding now as viewers realized they were watching the aftermath of the most spectacular misjudgment in recent memory. "Oh my God, he owns the hotel! This woman just ended her own career! I can't believe what I'm seeing." Jim Reynolds was staring at the business card like it might spontaneously combust, his 15 years of security experience providing absolutely no guidance for ejecting your own CEO from company property. "Sir, we were just following standard protocols for individuals who appeared to be, who seemed like they might be..." He couldn't finish the sentence because completing it would require admitting that their standard protocols involved racial profiling and class discrimination that would make excellent evidence in the lawsuit that was probably already being drafted. Marcus smiled with the patience of a man who'd been collecting evidence of systemic problems for months and had just received the final piece of his puzzle. "Mr. Reynolds, I'm curious about these protocols you mentioned. Are they written down somewhere? Because I'd very much like to review the official Grand Corp policy that authorizes security staff to physically remove guests based on their appearance rather than their behavior." The crowd was thinning now as the smarter spectators realized they'd been recording their own complicity in a civil rights violation that would soon be analyzed by corporate lawyers, federal investigators, and social media justice warriors with nothing better to do than destroy careers. But the core group of staff members couldn't escape because they were trapped in the gravitational pull of their own impending unemployment, forced to watch as Marcus methodically dismantled every assumption they'd made about power, privilege, and who belonged in their exclusive little world. Tom Bradley made one final desperate attempt to salvage something from the wreckage. "Mr. Williams, surely we can resolve this misunderstanding internally. No harm was actually done, and we can implement additional training to ensure this type of confusion doesn't happen again." His words carried the hollow ring of a man negotiating with a firing squad, completely missing the fact that Marcus had been systematically documenting problems at Grandview Hotel for months, and this incident had just provided the justification for the nuclear option. Marcus reached into his briefcase with deliberate slowness, extracting a tablet that would serve as the control panel for the most thorough corporate restructuring in hospitality history. "Mr. Bradley, I appreciate your optimism, but I'm afraid this situation extends far beyond a simple misunderstanding." He tapped the screen, revealing spreadsheets that made Tom's face go from gray to green as quarterly performance data painted a picture of systematic failure that had been hidden behind fake smiles and manufactured statistics. Grandview Hotel currently ranks 44th out of 44 properties in customer satisfaction, with an average rating of 2.3 stars and over 800 documented complaints in the past 18 months. 67% of those complaints involve allegations of discriminatory treatment based on race, ethnicity, or perceived economic status. The numbers hit like artillery shells, each statistic demolishing another piece of the comfortable fiction that had allowed this culture of discrimination to flourish unchecked. Sarah's live stream had become a real-time documentation of corporate accountability, as viewers watched her realize that her moment of viral fame would indeed make her famous, just not in the way she'd imagined. The comments were brutal. "R.I.P. her career. This is why we need hidden cameras everywhere. Someone's about to learn what consequences look like." Marcus continued his methodical presentation with the calm authority of a surgeon performing a necessary amputation. These performance metrics represent more than poor service. They represent a systematic pattern of discriminatory behavior that exposes Grand Corp Holdings to significant legal liability and reputational damage. He swiped to another screen showing financial projections that made Tom Bradley physically stagger backward. The estimated cost of pending lawsuits, federal investigations, and lost revenue due to negative publicity currently exceeds $12 million annually, making Grandview Hotel not just a moral liability, but a financial disaster that threatens the entire corporate portfolio. The final piece of evidence appeared on Marcus's screen like a judge's gavel falling on a guilty verdict. Staffing demographics that revealed the systematic exclusion of minority employees from management positions, the complete absence of diversity training, and promotion patterns that would make excellent exhibits in the federal discrimination lawsuit that was probably already being filed. Effective immediately, Marcus announced with quiet finality, Grandview Hotel will undergo complete management restructuring under direct corporate oversight. The words hung in the air like smoke from a controlled demolition, as everyone present realized they were witnessing not just the end of their careers, but the beginning of a corporate house cleaning that would reshape the entire hospitality industry's approach to discrimination and accountability. Marcus's phone rang at exactly 4 o'clock, the sound cutting through the morgue-like silence of the Grandview lobby, like a funeral bell announcing the end of an era. "Excuse me," he said with devastating politeness to the assembled group of soon-to-be unemployed staff members. "This is the board call I mentioned earlier." He answered with the kind of crisp professionalism that Tom Bradley had probably imagined he possessed, but never actually demonstrated. "Good afternoon, this is Marcus Williams. Yes, I'm currently conducting an on-site inspection at the Grandview property, and I'm afraid we have a situation that requires immediate board attention." The 40 remaining spectators watched in fascinated horror as their entertainment transformed into a corporate execution broadcast live across multiple social media platforms. 300 viewers becoming unwitting witnesses to the most thorough professional destruction in hospitality history. Marcus activated the speakerphone with deliberate precision, filling the marble lobby with the voices of Grand Corp Holdings Board of Directors, each introduction landing like a tombstone being carved in real time. Board members present include Patricia Chen, Chief Operating Officer, Robert Martinez, General Counsel, Dr. Sarah Kim, Head of Human Resources, and James Morrison, Chief Financial Officer. Tom Bradley's knees actually buckled as he realized he was listening to the corporate pantheon whose decisions would determine not just his employment but his entire professional future. Sarah Martinez had gone completely catatonic behind her reception desk. Her live stream still running, but her face frozen in the expression of someone watching their life collapse in slow motion. "Mr. Williams," came Patricia Chen's voice through the speaker, crisp and businesslike, "please provide your assessment of the Grandview situation." The formality of corporate communication made this destruction feel even more devastating because it reduced 20 years of careers to agenda items on an executive conference call. Marcus began his presentation with the methodical precision of a prosecutor laying out evidence for a capital case, his tablet displaying charts and graphs that painted Grandview Hotel as a cancer requiring immediate surgical removal. "Board members, Grandview Hotel has achieved the distinction of ranking dead last among our portfolio properties in every meaningful performance metric." Numbers flashed across his screen like incoming missiles targeting everything Tom Bradley thought he knew about hotel management. Customer satisfaction, 2.3 out of 5 stars, representing a 67% decline from industry standards. Revenue performance, 23% below projected targets for 18 consecutive months. resulting in an annual loss of $8.2 million in direct income and an estimated $12 million in reputational damage. Each statistic landed like a physical blow as the assembled staff realized they weren't just losing their jobs, they were being held accountable for systematic failure that had been disguised as acceptable performance through creative reporting and outright deception. The board's questions came like artillery fire from corporate headquarters, each inquiry designed to extract maximum information while building an unassailable case for immediate action. Mr. Williams, Robert Martinez's voice carried the weight of legal authority. What documentation do we have regarding the discriminatory practices you've observed? Marcus smiled with the satisfaction of a man who'd been building this case for months, his preparation evident in every carefully organized file on his tablet. Mr. Martinez, I have video evidence from multiple sources documenting today's incident, including live stream footage that has already been viewed by over 300 people and is currently being shared across social media platforms. Sarah's face went from pale to green as she realized her moment of viral fame had indeed made her famous, just as the star of a civil rights violation that would be studied in business schools and legal seminars for years to come. Dr. Sarah Kim's voice emerged from the speaker with the clinical detachment of someone accustomed to corporate autopsies. Mr. Williams, please provide specific details regarding the staffing demographics and training protocols that contributed to this situation. Marcus swiped to a new screen displaying charts that revealed Grandview's hiring and promotion patterns, like a medical examiner's report on institutional racism. Dr. Kim, current management demographics show 94% white male leadership across all department heads, with 0 completed diversity training sessions in the past 3 years, despite corporate mandates requiring quarterly compliance. The numbers created a damning portrait of systematic exclusion that had been hidden behind fake diversity reports and manufactured compliance statistics. Additionally, our review of complaint resolution procedures shows an average response time of 847 days for discrimination allegations, compared to 12 days for other service issues, indicating a deliberate pattern of minimizing and ignoring civil rights violations. James Morrison's financial analysis cut through the moral implications to focus on the bottom line impact that would ultimately determine everyone's fate. Mr. Williams, what's the projected cost of continuing current operations versus immediate restructuring? Marcus had been waiting for this question because it allowed him to present the nuclear option in terms that corporate boards understood best: money. Mr. Morrison, maintaining current management and operational practices exposes Grand Corp to an estimated $47 million in legal liability over the next 5 years, including pending class action lawsuits, federal investigation costs, and continued revenue losses due to negative publicity. The number landed like a depth charge in the silent lobby as everyone present realized they weren't just unemployed, they were unemployable liabilities whose continued employment threatened the entire corporate structure. Patricia Chen's voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that reshape entire industries. Mr. Williams, what are your recommendations for immediate action? This was the moment Tom Bradley had been dreading, the corporate judgment that would determine whether he spent his retirement years on a golf course or in a courtroom defending discrimination lawsuits. Marcus consulted his tablet with the calm precision of a surgeon selecting instruments for a particularly complex operation. Ms. Chen, I recommend immediate termination of all management personnel involved in today's incident, implementation of comprehensive diversity training for all remaining staff, and installation of real-time monitoring systems to prevent future violations. Each recommendation fell like a guillotine blade, separating heads from bodies with bureaucratic efficiency that made the violence feel almost antiseptic. The board's decision came with the swift finality of corporate justice, each vote announced through the speaker system like a bell tolling for the professionally dead. All in favor of Mr. Williams' recommendations? The chorus of aye votes echoed through the marble lobby like a death knell, sealing fates and ending careers with the kind of democratic efficiency that made corporate America simultaneously terrifying and fascinating. Motion carried unanimously, Patricia Chen announced, with the satisfaction of someone who'd just solved a problem that had been festering for months. Mr. Williams, you have full authority to implement immediate restructuring with whatever resources you require. The power to destroy lives had just been transferred from incompetent middle management to competent executive leadership, and everyone present understood they were witnessing a masterclass in corporate accountability delivered with surgical precision. Tom Bradley made one final, desperate attempt to negotiate with forces far beyond his pay grade. "Mr. Williams, surely there's some way we can resolve this situation without such drastic measures. I have 20 years of experience in hospitality management, and this was just an unfortunate misunderstanding." His plea carried the hollow ring of someone trying to argue with gravity, completely missing the fact that his 20 years of experience had produced the systematic failure that required surgical removal. Marcus looked at him with the kind of pity usually reserved for terminally ill patients. "Mr. Bradley, your 20 years of experience created a culture where paying customers are ejected based on their race, while your staff live streams the humiliation for entertainment. That's not hospitality management, that's institutionalized discrimination with a corporate logo." The judgment was final, delivered with the quiet authority of someone who understood that mercy and justice were sometimes mutually exclusive concepts. The board call concluded with administrative efficiency that transformed human drama into corporate procedure, each decision documented and recorded for the legal proceedings that would inevitably follow. "Mr. Williams, please provide written reports on all personnel changes within 48 hours. Patricia Chen's voice carried across the lobby like an epitaph for the Grandview Hotel's management structure. "We'll be scheduling follow-up assessments to ensure compliance with all federal and corporate diversity requirements." The call ended with the soft click of disconnection that sounded like a coffin lid closing on careers that had been built on foundations of casual racism and systematic exclusion. Marcus pocketed his phone and turned to face the assembled group of former employees with the calm satisfaction of someone who'd just performed necessary surgery on a diseased corporate culture. The silence that followed the board call's conclusion felt like the moment after a controlled demolition, when dust settles and observers begin to comprehend the magnitude of what they've just witnessed. Marcus Williams stood in the center of the Grandview lobby like a general surveying a battlefield where victory had been achieved not through violence, but through the devastating application of corporate accountability. Tom Bradley was the first casualty to fall, his 20-year career ending not with ceremony, but with the clinical efficiency of a business decision. "Mr. Bradley, your employment is terminated immediately. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings, and your final paycheck will be processed within 72 hours as required by state law." The words carried no malice, just the kind of professional detachment that made corporate executions feel almost merciful in their swiftness. Sarah Martinez watched her viral fame transform from social media stardom into career suicide as Marcus turned his attention to the reception desk where her live stream was still broadcasting to an audience that had swelled to over 800 viewers. "Ms. Martinez, your employment is also terminated effective immediately. Additionally, the video evidence you've helpfully provided will be forwarded to our legal department as documentation of discriminatory practices that may be relevant to pending federal investigations." Her phone slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering onto the marble floor like the sound of dreams shattering into irreparable fragments. The live stream continued from the floor, capturing the ceiling tiles that would probably receive better customer service than Marcus had experienced just 30 minutes earlier. Jim Reynolds and his security team received their professional death sentences with the same bureaucratic efficiency, their 15 years of experience meaning nothing when weighed against their participation in systematic discrimination. "Mr. Reynolds, your security protocols will be reviewed by federal investigators as part of our compliance restructuring. Your employment is terminated and you're banned from Grand Corp properties pending the outcome of any legal proceedings." The security chief who'd threatened to arrest his own CEO just minutes earlier now faced the prospect of explaining his career choices to unemployment counselors and possibly federal prosecutors. The irony was so perfect it felt scripted, except real life rarely provides such satisfying examples of immediate karma delivered through corporate channels. Marcus activated his tablet again, this time accessing implementation protocols that had been prepared months in advance, waiting for exactly this kind of triggering incident. "Ladies and gentlemen, Grandview Hotel will now operate under direct corporate oversight while we implement comprehensive reforms designed to prevent future incidents." The remaining staff members listened with the terrified attention of people watching their professional futures being rewritten in real time. Effective immediately, all guest interactions will be monitored through audio and video recording systems that will be reviewed daily by corporate compliance officers. The announcement landed like a death knell for casual racism, creating an environment where discrimination would be impossible to hide behind plausible deniability or corporate bureaucracy. The interim management team arrived within 2 hours, their efficiency demonstrating the kind of preparedness that suggested this restructuring had been planned long before today's incident provided the necessary justification. Rebecca Chen, Patricia Chen's daughter and a rising star in hospitality management, swept through the lobby with the confidence of someone accustomed to cleaning up other people's disasters. "I'll be serving as interim general manager while we implement new policies and procedures," she announced to the shell-shocked remaining staff. "Every employee will complete 40 hours of diversity and inclusion training before returning to guest-facing duties, and failure to meet new performance standards will result in immediate termination without severance." The message was clear: adapt or disappear, because the old culture of casual discrimination had just been buried under an avalanche of corporate accountability. The new monitoring systems went online before the sun set, transforming the Grandview lobby from a theater of humiliation into a laboratory for hospitality excellence. Real-time customer feedback apps appeared on every surface, allowing guests to report discriminatory treatment instantly to corporate headquarters rather than hoping their complaints would eventually reach someone who cared. "Every interaction will be scored and reviewed," Rebecca Chen explained to the surviving staff members who'd gathered for emergency retraining. "Discriminatory behavior will result in immediate termination, and exemplary service will be rewarded with performance bonuses and advancement opportunities." And the carrot-and-stick approach created incentives for excellence while making discrimination professionally suicidal. Exactly the kind of systematic change that corporate America desperately needed, but rarely implemented until forced by circumstances. The financial commitment to reform reached $2.4 million in the first quarter alone, money that had previously been allocated to executive bonuses and shareholder dividends, but would now fund the kind of comprehensive change that transformed organizational culture from the ground up. New hiring protocols required diversity testing for all positions, ensuring that future employees understood that discrimination wasn't just morally wrong, but professionally fatal. Training programs expanded beyond basic sensitivity sessions to include detailed instruction on recognizing unconscious bias, de-escalating cultural conflicts, and providing exceptional service regardless of guests' appearance, accent, or perceived social status. The investment represented more than policy changes. It demonstrated that Grand Corp Holdings was willing to prioritize human dignity over short-term profits, a radical concept in an industry built on exclusivity and perceived superiority. The ripple effects extended far beyond the Grandview property as news of the restructuring spread through hospitality industry networks like wildfire through dry grass. Competing hotel chains began implementing their own diversity monitoring systems, terrified that they might harbor the next Tom Bradley or Sarah Martinez, whose discriminatory behavior could trigger similar corporate house cleaning. The Williams Doctrine, as industry publications dubbed it, became shorthand for the kind of immediate, comprehensive accountability that transformed isolated incidents into systematic reform. Marcus had achieved something more valuable than personal revenge. He'd created a precedent that would protect countless future guests from experiencing the humiliation he'd endured, turning his moment of public degradation into a catalyst for industry-wide transformation that would benefit everyone except those who profited from maintaining the status quo. 6 months later, Marcus Williams stood in the same Grandview hotel lobby where he'd been physically dragged toward the exit by security guards who'd mistaken their own CEO for a vagrant in expensive clothing. The transformation was so complete, it felt like entering a parallel universe where competence had replaced arrogance and professionalism had conquered prejudice. Rebecca Chen approached with the kind of genuine smile that had been extinct in this building during the previous management's reign of casual discrimination. "Mr. Williams, welcome back to Grandview. Your penthouse suite is ready, and I've personally ensured that every staff member understands the significance of providing exceptional service to all our guests." The greeting represented more than courtesy. It symbolized the systematic cultural change that had transformed the worst-performing property in the Grand Corp portfolio into a model for hospitality excellence. The numbers told a story of redemption that would have seemed impossible during those dark days when Sarah Martinez was live-streaming discrimination for entertainment and Tom Bradley was treating racism like a customer service protocol. Guest satisfaction ratings had skyrocketed from 2.3 stars to 4.8 stars, making Grandview the second highest-rated property in the entire chain. Revenue had increased by $14 million in the first 6 months, proving that treating all customers with dignity wasn't just morally correct, but financially profitable in ways that the previous management had been too incompetent to understand. The lawsuit settlements had been minimal because the swift, comprehensive reforms demonstrated genuine commitment to change, rather than the usual corporate damage control that admits nothing while changing less. Marcus had achieved the rarest of victories. He'd transformed institutional failure into systematic success while proving that accountability and profitability weren't mutually exclusive concepts. The broader impact extended far beyond one hotel's transformation, as the Grandview incident became required study material in business schools, civil rights organizations, and corporate training programs across the country. 12 other major hotel chains had implemented similar real-time monitoring systems, terrified that their properties might harbor the next viral discrimination incident that could trigger federal investigations and corporate restructuring. The video evidence from Sarah's livestream had been viewed over 2 million times, becoming a cautionary tale about the career-ending consequences of casual racism, in an era when every customer carries a recording device and every incident can become global news within minutes. Marcus had inadvertently created a new paradigm where discrimination wasn't just morally wrong but professionally suicidal, forcing an entire industry to confront systematic problems they'd previously ignored or minimized. The personal satisfaction Marcus felt wasn't about revenge, but about the knowledge that his moment of public humiliation had been transformed into a catalyst for protecting countless future guests from experiencing similar degradation. The platinum cufflinks that had gone unnoticed during his ejection now served as a reminder that power used responsibly could create lasting change rather than temporary satisfaction. Every email from grateful customers who'd experienced genuine hospitality at properties that had previously been discrimination factories represented validation that systematic reform was more valuable than individual retaliation. The man who'd been physically removed from his own hotel had used that experience to rebuild an entire industry's approach to customer service, proving that intelligence and persistence could achieve more lasting victories than anger and litigation. The legacy of that 20-minute transformation continued to ripple through corporate America as other industries began implementing similar accountability measures, recognizing that systematic discrimination represented not just moral failure, but massive financial liability in an interconnected world where reputation could be destroyed faster than it could be rebuilt. Marcus Williams had achieved something more valuable than personal vindication. He'd created a blueprint for converting individual injustice into systematic justice that would protect millions of people who would never know his name, but would benefit from the changes he'd forced through one moment of devastating corporate accountability. Have you ever experienced discrimination that could spark the kind of systematic change that protects others from similar treatment? Share your story in the comments below, because every instance of injustice contains the seeds of transformation if we're brave enough to plant them. Hit that subscribe button if you believe corporate accountability should be more than just a buzzword, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand that real change happens when ordinary people refuse to accept extraordinary injustice. Your voice matters, your experience counts, and your willingness to speak truth to power might just trigger the next great transformation that makes the world a little more fair for everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to HOA Stories, where neighbors stand up against HOA Karens and karma comes a-knocking. If you like this story, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more HOA tales and real-life neighborhood drama each week.